Hey friends, this video is part 2, and it's a continuation of weaving a small round basket with a single handle. In part 1, we wove the basket itself. Now we'll be weaving the basket handle. You'll need the same materials and tools as in part 1. So let's continue weaving. In front of me is the finished basket in a cellophane bag. Let's take it out and get started on the handle. First, we need to find the spots where the handle ends will be inserted into the basket. If your basket has any imperfections you'd like to hide, that's exactly where you should insert the handle ends. That way, those imperfections won't catch the eye. These could be things like uneven stakes, a weaving mistake, unevenly placed strokes, and so on. Imperfections like these are perfectly normal in weaving. They happen even if you're an experienced crafter. I've chosen my spot and inserted a knitting needle there. The knitting needle goes into the left of the laid down stake. Take 2 rod offcuts and insert them into the weaving at the spots where the handle will be inserted. Remove the knitting needle and insert a rod offcut. The number of laid down stakes or holes is 16. From your mark, count half, that's 8, and insert the second rod offcut. The distance between the 2 offcuts should be equal. Double check this a few times. Take 3 rods, this will form the handle core. The length of my basket handle matches the length of 1 rod, which is roughly 12 inches. You can make yours the same length as mine, or shorter or longer. The principle for making the core stays the same. Now we'll need wire. Try to straighten it out as much as possible by hand. Otherwise, it'll be hard to insert into a rod. Take the first rod and check whether the inner openings are blocked. If they are, push a knitting needle into the end of the rod and twist it a little. The opening will most likely clear. If not, simply use a different rod. Apply force only with the hand holding the wire. Your other hand just steadies the rod. Insert the wire slowly, rotating the rod back and forth to keep the wire from hitting the inner walls of the rod. Trim the wire to match the length of the rod and cut the edge. That's how you insert a wire into a rod. Prepare a glass jar and some masking tape. Lay the jar on its side and bundle the rods with wire inside together. Then bend this bundle around the jar's circumference. We need the rods to take on a smooth, semicircular shape. It would be hard to get an even curve by hand alone. Let's test fit it on our basket. Everything fits. Now use masking tape to join all 3 rods together. Align them and stick a small piece of masking tape in the center first, then at the edges. Masking tape also comes in brown, which would work better here. Fix the bundle of rods onto the jar one more time to hold the correct shape. My wire poked out, I'll trim it. Otherwise, it'll tear through the weaving and scratch me. I'm test fitting it on the basket again, making sure all rods sit snugly against each other. We'll insert the handle core into the weaving at the spots marked by the rod offcuts. It'll go in roughly this deep. Remove the rod offcut and use a knitting needle to open up space at that spot so the handle core can fit. Glue the rod ends of the handle core to each other so they act as a single unit and slide into the weaving easily. I'm using a thicker knitting needle to make more space. If needed, I cut the end of the handle core at an angle, then insert it into the opening in the weaving. I've inserted it 3 rows deep. I apply plenty of glue to this end of the handle core and push it into the weaving once more, so it bonds in place and doesn't move. I do the same with the other end. Both ends of the handle core are now inserted. I look everything over one more time. Is it all even? I wipe away excess glue and adjust the weaving if needed. I press with my fingers at the joints where the handle core ends, meet the weaving for a better bond. One more check to make sure I'm happy with the size and height of the handle. Now let's prepare the rods for wrapping. Take 16 rods and some fishing line. Then insert the fishing line into each rod, using the same method as when we inserted the wire. The wrapping rods are ready. Here's what they look like. Choose any side to start wrapping from. I use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the left of the inserted handle core. I insert the first weaver with fishing line into that space. Twisted end first. I don't fix it with glue. I gently flex the rod along its full length. I bring it to the right and tuck it under the handle core, then bring it out to the left, toward me. I repeat these motions around the handle core. With this weaver, I make 4 strokes around the core. Visually, the strokes should be evenly spaced, distributed equally along the entire handle core. The end of the rod goes inside the basket, but it's gotten short. We splice it with another rod that has fishing line inside, a simple splice. For the splice location, choose the section of the weaver that passes under the handle core. It'll always be hidden from view and won't spoil the look of the basket. Cut the weaver at a sharp angle. In the new rod, push the fishing line slightly inward so it doesn't interfere with the splice. Even out the butt and put a drop of glue into it. Insert the sharp end of the weaver into the butt and press the splice point with your fingers so it bonds well. Then direct the weaver to the left of the handle core and carefully lay its long end inside the basket, leaving it there. Secure the last stroke on the handle core with a clothespin, so all the completed strokes stay in place. We continue working on the same side where the end of the first weaver arrived. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the left of the handle core. Insert the second weaver, twisted end first, into the weaving. Then tilt it to the right and begin laying it under the existing stroke of the first weaver. Gently flex the second weaver along its full length. Then tuck it under the handle core and bring it out toward you. And then once again it wraps around the handle core. It sits snugly and parallel to the first weaver along the entire handle core. The weavers must never cross, they always lay parallel. Four strokes done, 2 under the first weaver and 2 over it. The second weaver has gotten short. Splice it on the inside under the handle core. The second weaver is spliced. Lay the last stroke of the second weaver on top of the first weaver's stroke, where it's inserted into the weaving. Then tuck the second weaver to the left of the handle core and lower it into the basket. Carefully lay it in place and leave it there. Take a look at the splice point. It's under the handle core, not on the face. We continue working from this side. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the weaver inserted into the weaving. The other weaver on this side is laid inside the basket. Insert the third weaver, twisted end first, into the prepared spot. Notice how the rod itself already sets the direction it will lay, along the handle core. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Tuck it under the handle core from the right side and lay it under the weaver that's inserted into the weaving. The weaver wraps around the handle core and comes out toward you. Then it goes over the top of the handle core and back under. I'm constantly checking how the third weaver is laying. All rods lay parallel to each other, no crossing. The last stroke with the third weaver goes over the 2 weavers already in place on the left side, and the end of the third weaver goes inside the basket, where I leave it. Let's splice the third weaver right away, since this length won't be enough for the lock. Spliced and returned the third weaver to its place in the basket. We continue working from the same side. In front of us, 2 weavers to the left of the handle core tucked inside the basket, and 1 weaver inserted into the weaving. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the inserted weaver. Insert a new weaver, the 4th one, twisted end first, into the prepared space. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Tuck it from the right under the handle core and lay it under the 3 weaver strokes. Bring it out towards you. Then lead it to the right again over the handle core, constantly checking how this weaver is laying. It should lay naturally, parallel to the weaver it started next to it at the very beginning. The last 2 strokes with the 4th weaver go on top of the 3 weavers already in place. I lay the end to the left inside the basket and leave it there. 4 weavers are now in place on this side. Let's splice the 4th weaver right away, since this length won't be enough for the lock. Spliced and returned the 4th weaver to its place in the basket. I've secured the splice point with a clothespin until it's fully bonded. We continue working from the same side. The handle core is now wrapped with 4 weavers. 2 weavers to the left of the handle core are tucked inside the basket, and 2 weavers are inserted into the weaving. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the inserted weavers. Insert a new weaver, the 5th one, twisted end first, into the prepared space. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Tuck it from right to left under the handle core and lay it under the 4 weaver strokes already on the core. Bring it out on the left, go over the handle core heading right. But the 3rd and 4th strokes lay on top of all the existing weaver strokes. The weaver should lay naturally, parallel to the weaver it started next to at the very beginning. I lay the end of the 5th rod to the left of the handle core, inside the basket, and leave it there. 5 weavers are now in place on this side. Let's splice the 5th weaver right away, since this length won't be enough for the lock. Spliced and returned the 5th weaver to its place in the basket. Press down all the strokes laid on the handle core. We continue working from the same side. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the inserted weavers. Insert a new weaver, the 6th one, twisted end first into the prepared space. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Lay it on the handle core. The first 2 strokes go under all the weaver strokes, and the next 2 strokes go around the handle core over all the strokes. Lay it parallel to the weaver it started next to at the very beginning. Splice the 6th weaver and return it to its place in the basket. Working from the same side. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the 3 inserted weavers. Insert a new weaver, the 7th one, twisted end first into the prepared space. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Lay it on the handle core. There's not much unfilled space left. Don't get confused. Lay it parallel to the weaver it started next to at the very beginning. Don't let the rods cross. Splice the 7th weaver and return it to its place in the basket. Now we bring the last weaver, the 8th, into play. Working from the same side. Use a knitting needle to make space in the weaving to the right of the 3 inserted weavers. Insert a new weaver, the 8th one, twisted end first into the prepared space. Gently flex the rod along its full length. Start laying it in place. There's very little room for placement now, so use a knitting needle to separate the strokes. Lay it parallel to the weaver it started next to at the very beginning. Be careful. It's easy to get confused here. Take your time and track precisely that the weaver is settling into its proper position, parallel without crossing other rods. Move in small steps. Once you've laid one stroke, Press down the strokes already in place so they're evenly distributed on the handle core. I got it. I check one more time that everything is correct, examining the handle from all sides. All strokes are laid parallel to each other and don't conflict with one another. I splice the rod and tuck it into the basket. The handle core wrapping is complete. Press all the strokes along the full length of the handle core with your hands, so they lock against each other and close up any small gaps between them. Start from either end of the handle. In front of us are 4 long weaver ends. Looking from the inside, their direction is right to left. This tells us where the rods need to be inserted into the weaving. When we look at the basket from the outside, we prepare space to the right of the stake where the handle core was inserted. Count down 4 rows from the top on the inside. That's where we place a rod of cut. This is the spot to the right of the stake, though if you're looking from inside the basket, it'll appear to be on the left, where the handle core is inserted. For convenience, pull all the long weaver ends out and point them in different directions. Into this space, insert the rods one at a time, starting with the top one. Push it into the space prepared with the knitting needle. Pull it through to the face of the basket. Keep it as far as possible from the stake where the handle core is inserted. Take the next rod, the one nearest to it. Insert it between the first inserted weaver and the stake with the handle core. They must lay parallel, not twisted around each other. See how they're laid in a row. Now lay the remaining 2 weavers. Insert the third rod into the space and lay it between the 2 inserted weavers and the stake with the handle core. Pull it forward to the face. Use a knitting needle to make space for the last weaver. Insert it and lay it between the 3 inserted weavers and the stake with the handle core. Pull it forward to the face. From the inside, press all the rods with your fingers so they hold their tension and sit evenly against each other. 4 rods are now brought to the front. They sit in a single row, parallel to each other. We must keep this pattern throughout the entire lock. We'll work with all 4 rods at once. Lift the rods up and direct them to the left. Next, tuck them behind the handle core on the left. Wrap them around the handle core and bring them out to the front on the right side of the handle. Gently pull the rods so they sit snugly against the handle. Then lead them to the left, crossing over and covering the previous stroke with these rods. This creates a cross. Hold the rods so the lock doesn't come apart. Adjust the strokes where needed and press with your fingers. Make sure the rods don't swap positions. They must always lay parallel to each other. I hold the rod crossing point with my finger and use a knitting needle to open up space on the left side of the stake with the handle core. I make the space at the same distance, the 4th row. Starting with the far right rod, I insert them one by one into the weaving. I adjust all the strokes and pull the rods tighter if needed. Turn the basket around. We'll be working inside the basket now. 4 rod ends are inside the basket. They need to be trimmed and tucked behind the strokes. I've already trimmed the ends, but I'll even them up together with you. Lift all 4 rods up and to the left, toward the 4 strokes already in place. We'll tuck the rod ends under those strokes. Press them with your fingers, and you'll see that any ends extending beyond the strokes need to be trimmed. Trim them. Starting with the far left rod, I push it under the laid strokes. I smooth it out. I move to the next rod and tuck it in the same place. All 4 rods should lay parallel to each other. Use a knitting needle and your hands to straighten out the tucked rod ends. The steps are the same, but there's one difference. This is important. On your own, mark the insertion spot with a rod of cut. This is where all 4 long rods will go. Looking from the inside, it's the spot to the left of the stake with the handle. Count down 4 rows and use a knitting needle to make space to the left of the stake for 4 rods. Insert all 4 long rods, one at a time, into this hole and pull them through to the face. Keep the tension. On the face, lift all 4 rods and immediately direct them to the left of the handle. Then they wrap behind the handle and come back to the front. Here's the key point. On the other lock, these rods were laid over the stroke. Here, we'll tuck them under the strokes instead. That way, both locks will be mirror images of each other, symmetrical. Thread all the rods under the stroke made of 4 rods. Look everything over once more. Are all the strokes laying correctly? Now, starting with the far right rod, I insert them into the Weevyn 4 rows from the top. Use a knitting needle to help if needed. Pull all the rods to the inside so they sit more or less under tension. I check all the locks and the tension one more time. Moving to the inside of the lock. Trim the rod ends flush with the laid strokes. Then tuck them into the laid strokes. Both locks are done. Let's give the whole basket one final look. Adjust the weaving. Press the handle with your hands. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things once more. Notice how the splicing looks. It's hidden under the handle and doesn't catch the eye. Also, take a look at the strokes on the lock. They all lay parallel to each other, even where the rods wrap around the handle itself. Your basket is done. Now you have one more reason to be proud of yourself. Thank you for weaving along with me. Give this a like if you enjoyed the tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.